I shouldn't be able to hear you or anything, right? Or I can hear you right now.
Uh,
Oh, okay.
I'm not
I just,
sure.
I just didn't. I just didn't. No, I can hear you. I just didn't know if you were talking. I went to your YouTube to make sure. I was like, man, is he asking the questions right now?
Nah, but everybody can hear both of us right now.
Oh, cool. I got
Yeah.
you.
Yep. We're just giving it a minute or two for everyone to hop on here. Probably gonna start 5 or 6 minutes after.
No, I actually don't know.
All right, guys. What is going on? What is good? Hope you guys had a phenomenal week in the markets. Hopefully, you didn't get chopped up today with NFP. Hopefully, you didn't get chopped up with Powell speaking twice this week, which I think that was the first time I've ever seen him speak 2 times in 1 week before. So that was very interesting and very different. But as the title says, right, normally we do our live futures analysis, but today we have a special guest with us, Rickey Lawyer. So real quick before we get into it, Chad, give me a sound check. Just make sure that we're good. Make sure that we're not too loud. I think I just got to change these levels real quick. So now we should be good. We should be good to go. So as soon as we get the all okay from the chat, we can get right into today's presentation, today's discussion with funded trader Mr. Rickey Lawyer. What's good, Marwin? What's good, Naruto, Ali, Willow, John Wicked in? Happy Friday. Josh, what's good? Brian says the sound is good. Awesome. Appreciate that. So Rickey, what's good, man? How are you?
What's going on, brother? What's going on?
Chilling, man.
Sound good on my end?
Should be, yeah.
Cool.
Chat real quick, can you guys hear Rickey? You guys should be able to. Just got to do a quick sound check before we get too far into it, because trust me, I've talked to myself before for 15-20 minutes, you know, and everyone's like, what the fuck? So but yeah, we got a lot to discuss today. I know you and I had a conversation the other day, and I just feel like you're one of those people that are kind of like me, man. When we talk about trading or we go down the rabbit hole, man, we just don't stop. We could talk all day. You know what I mean? So I don't know if today's gonna be one of those days. We'll cover the important stuff first, but hey, man, whatever happens. So the first question I have for you, man, why don't you introduce yourself? Why don't you tell us how long you've been trading and what your biggest breakthrough in trading was?
Awesome, cool. Well, for some of you guys that don't know me, my name is Rickey Lawyer. I go by Ciroc FX on Instagram. Got involved with trading back in 2019, so like right before the pandemic. I was, just like anyone else. I went to high school, went to college. Always wanted more out of life. And basically, what happened for me was I was in college. So I'll kind of take you guys really quick back to my college story. And I was blessed enough to be able to play college football, play junior college right out of high school. Then I went to my goal was to transfer to a Division One. Something happened, had a little hiccup in there in the junior college in the transition from the junior college to the D1. And then I came back home, and for the first time in my life, I was not just an like I was just a student. I wasn't an athlete anymore. Basically, I had come back to normal life. I actually had to start working at the job that I was working at when I left high school. So I had taken a big regression back, but then I decided, hey, I'm going to go up to school, and basically, finish out my degree here in state, Oklahoma. I'm actually from Oklahoma, and it was cheaper to go there, so that's why I was going to go. And long story short, I actually was going to school for business and marketing. And for some of you guys that maybe have tapped into the Kevin Trudeau or the KT we call it, this is a really big lesson I want you guys to stick with. That comes from me, right? Is who do you listen to, right? And the reason why I say this is because back in my college experience, I was, like I said, I was in business school. Me and my good friend Kenneth, happy birthday to Kenneth. I know he said he might watch this. So um, we had a business plan planned out. We had everything mapped out, and we went to this business, educator, or excuse me, professor, and we gave him our plan. We showed him everything, and he told us it wouldn't work, right? And so I was pretty down, but at the same time, that year, I was 23 years old. I had just met my first millionaire. Now, this millionaire came from a company that was a network marketing company, right? So he started showing me about financial freedom and Bob Proctor and the different audios and books and just different stuff of self development. And I went back to class that next day because I told that mentor, I said, hey, I have this plan. I mean, we have the business plan written out. Da, da, da. He says it's not going to work. He says, Ricky, I want you to go back to that teacher with all due respect. And he's like, I want you to ask the individual, has he ever ran a business before? And I did that, and he was very upset. All due respect to the teachers, friends, and family, right? But I asked him. He'd never done a business. And so for me, like that's where it come to, you got to find people that have the results that you want, and then
Mm-hmm.
you have to seek those people, and you have to go follow their lead. So long story short, like I said, who do you listen to? And like I was listening to people that they had my best interest, but they just didn't know what they didn't know. So how I got involved with trading, I had that awareness that I had built up from college. I failed for about 5 years in entrepreneurship, and then I would, God willing, ran into Jordan Morgan, Trade House, and the rest was history from there. And I just really tapped in with those guys when I first started back in, I think it was like the end of 2018. I didn't sign up into the platform for about 4 months, but what really got me over the edge was it wasn't money or people doing this. I seen people leading a certain lifestyle, right? So like I
Mm-hmm.
seen Jordan Morgan leading a certain lifestyle, and I seen that especially when he transitioned to being a father and different things. And I seen how not like how you could actually use Forex and trading and investing, etc. Long term, and it was something that you could actually do. So that's kind of how I got involved. I was introduced to just entrepreneurship at a younger age. And then through that awareness and failures, it brought me to I wanted to start trading.
Yeah, no, very, very nice. And real quick, guys, as well, Ricky's a funded trader, but him and I both we want to let you guys know that this is absolutely not a recommendation, to go out and buy funded challenges or purchase some type of funding. Okay, this is not a recommendation. We're not endorsing anyone. Okay, I just want to share his experience with you guys. Okay, so just legal disclaimer there, we're not promoting funded accounts and we're not endorsing any funded companies or accounts. All right, so there is that. So um let's talk about your journey as a trader. So for anyone who's actually a trader, right, we all know that there are struggles, there are hurdles to overcome. So why don't you tell us some of the biggest challenges on your journey as a trader and how you were able to overcome some of those obstacles?
Awesome. So I would say in my journey as a trader, and let's just say this, I'll be yeah. So as my journey as a trader, I think what it really comes down to from looking back now, and I'm always a student, I'm always still wanting to go forward, but to where I'm at now, I'd say the biggest thing was my intentions, right? So my intentions were that I needed money. I had bills to be paid. I had, promises I needed to keep. I was in debt, right? And so when I first started trading, there was a lot of what can I say? There's a lot of mental things that were in the way, a lot of limitations. And so I think what really helped was, being around the community, people like yourself, and seeing people be consistent. And you guys were basically like that example to follow. So I would say when I first started, it was difficult. Like when I first started, I was driving Uber 10 hours a day, right? So it
Hmm.
was like 8 hours a day, and working other side gigs, and just doing whatever I could. Like, so like how my day kind of looked was back in the day on IM, they used to stream at 11 and 11. That's when Power Hour, I think, or not Power Hour, but Jordan and them stream used to be at 11, and then Mike Miles would be at 11. So like I told you guys when I first got involved. I actually lived only 5 minutes away from the trade house. So like when I wasn't driving Uber, I was spending time with these individuals, right?
Hmm.
And so um, so like for me to where, like I said, where I was to where I'm at now, I think the hardest thing was for me coming up was just, especially culturally, right? It's just never even been taught about investing, right? So you had to really, like when they say believe bigger, much faster, have faith, trust the process. Um, I was really in that phase, right? But I would say like I was still just kind of, you know, you know, plucking around, doing whatever, right? Until the pandemic, right? Because I understood risk reward. Like I didn't understand it yet, but I was getting it down. I was taking setups, right? And it wasn't really until my back was against the wall with the last bit of capital that I had before the pandemic that I realized that potentially this could really be something because before I was always using a smaller amount of capital, let's just say, but I was always still trading percentages. So
Hmm.
when I first started, I would be winning trades and I would be doing these pretty good percents, let's just say. Um, but I wasn't really having a profits to show people. People weren't like, yo, bro, like that's not gonna pay a bill or whatever. So I just kept beating on the craft, right? I kept beating on the craft, and then I seen as I was doing the numbers one night, right? I started seeing that if you had a little bit more capital, those percentages would change on that number. And so it just became a thing from that point that I was going to eventually, get to, um, you know, I didn't know that there was going to be funded, platforms, et cetera, stuff like that. But
Hmm.
knew that one day I'd get to those points and I'd maybe potentially be able to produce those numbers.
Yeah. Oh, very nice, very nice. So, you did mention small numbers, right? Where it's like when you first get into trading, most people don't really have a lot to work with. So most people don't think in terms of percentages. They're thinking, how much can I make? $10 or $100 or like whatever that number happens to be. And like you said, oh, this isn't going to pay a bill. That's not going to pay a bill. So, uh, and this is why I think a lot of people think that it takes a lot of money to make a lot of money, right? But I don't think that per se. Given that there's leverage and stuff like that in trading, right? We have margin. So when it comes to trading by itself, right? Would you say that it's important for a trader to have multiple sources of income versus just trading alone?
100%, because as you're getting started, you're going to look at your week. Everybody is, gifted 24 hours in a day. Everyone's gifted 168 hours in a week. So, that's one of to kind of go back on the last question you had. I was very adamant on how I spent my time when I first started. So I was spending on average on my education with working, right, 4 hours a day. So most people don't, when they get off work, they watch Netflix, they do whatever. That's when you got to sacrifice for about 90 days or 5 months, whatever it could be, to from 7 to 12 at night, locking in there. But for me, when you said, having multiple streams of income, I think it takes the stress off you as a trader because you're not dependent on your trading income to be like you're paying your bills and stuff like that, and that gives you a little bit more clarity to take positions and play your setups and your rules and stuff like that. So yeah, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely I don't it doesn't matter like when you look at the cash flow quadrant I have here in my office, I don't it doesn't matter if you're, an employee or self-employed still, right? Maybe you're self-employed, you're still doing Uber, maybe you still have that job. It's about taking there's a book I read recently called The Richest Man in Babylon. So what you can actually do is, potentially is take, percentages of other parts of your profits from like wherever your job or your, you're driving Uber, whatever it can be, and you just start compounding that, and that gives you a little bit more clarity. Because you're not, like I said, you're not sitting there worrying about paying your bills and you're trading money and you lose the trade. Um, and it just keeps your mind just more clear. I try to, like, my goal is always try to eliminate the fear when I'm in this realm right here. Like when I sit down here, my goal is to do is to eliminate fear. So you don't want to be thinking about, you know what I mean, other bills or other priorities.
Yeah. Well, because I think it comes down to there's this idea from Ryan Holiday, and he has so many ideas, and I think it was in I think either stillness is the key or discipline is destiny. It was one of his books, and this isn't his original idea, but he kind of brought it back. He basically says that when you say yes to one thing, you say no to a bunch of other things, or vice versa. If you say no to one thing, you're saying yes to something else. And I think that works with our attention as well. If we're focused on paying a bill or trying to make money to pay a bill, we're not focused on the market, right? Or vice versa, when we're focused on the market and not worried about making enough money to pay a bill, I think that's actually how we get to that. You know what I mean? Like, no promises, no guarantees, no income claims, but it's like when I take trades, and I'm talking about the banger trades like silver from last week, or like the Dow I traded yesterday. You know what I mean? Like, it was a really solid entry, straight to my direction. But that was my focus, right? I wasn't focused on, well, how much am I going to make? How much am I going to pull out? This, that, and the third. I'm focusing on the market. I'm focusing, is this a quality setup? Does it meet my criteria? What's my max risk? What am I willing to lose on this? Am I okay with that? Okay, cool. Let's take it. You know what I mean? So I think that is part of it. When you have multiple sources of income, so when you have money coming in, it kind of frees up that mental capital of, all right, well, my electricity is good, my rent's good, or mortgage, whatever, like all that's good. Now I can focus on the market because the basics have been covered, you
Yeah.
know so that is one thing. I guess I would say to the intermediate to beginner traders, because I feel like a lot of people try and rush that process of either getting to a funded account like you've done, or getting access to more capital, whether it be money from their own job or whatever. I think people rush the process. So let me ask you about that real quick. We'll go off the script, off the questions that I have. When it comes to like your journey and everything, I know you said earlier that you've been following us for a while. I think you said 2019 or something like that. So you've been rocking with us for a few years now. What would you say to the beginner trader or even the intermediate trader who may kind of be struggling a little bit, or maybe the results are kind of break even, where they kind of know what they're doing a little bit, but they're kind of getting stuck, or they've plateaued a little bit? What would you say when it comes to the amount of time that it takes to gain the experience that you have now, in becoming a better trader?
So, there's an acronym for the word time, and to break it down, it just means things I must experience, right? So things I must experience. So what I would say is for the newest trader is you gotta set goals. One, you gotta set goals, because if you don't have a goal, like a benchmark to where you're trying to get to, it's gonna be kind of hard. And most people, when they start, they're doing it off of a like a dollar amount. They're like, oh, I want to make X amount of dollars and da da da. But here's the thing I can tell you that I tell people on my team for the newest trader is kind of like what Jordan Morgan told me when I first started. If you can do this, if you can produce percentages over profits, right? So if you can produce percentages with $100, what's the difference in potentially having 100,000? So for the newest person, what I'm basically saying is that don't despise small beginnings, right? Don't despise the small beginnings. If you're doing percentages like I was, before I ever funded all that, I had $1,000 to trade with, right? So like I said, if you're that person right now that's framing up your moves and it's fitting the plan, the blueprint that's been given, right? but you're hitting 3% and 5%, and that's 30, $50 on $1,000 account. You got to realize that with accessibility, so access to capital, right? That was something that wasn't this out there in 2019. You got to realize that becoming skillful is very important, right? So like even if you're doing, like I said, $1,000 account, you're doing 30, $50 gains. Those are 3 and 5% gains. Nothing changes when you 10x up, right? It's all numbers. Like once I realize that it's all numbers and that I can take my emotions out of it and let the numbers be the numbers, that's probably one of the biggest breakthroughs that I've had trading is just letting go and letting God, right? Just let him take over, have the plan, right? So
There you
that's
go.
probably my yes, sir.
So, yeah, I know Mike Miles has said this for a really long time. He basically says, you know, the way to make $5 is the same way to make $50,000. You know, and I think what you said is true, right? And I think that statement is true as well. But I think it comes back to one of the Stoic ideas of it's Epictetus who basically taught us the dichotomy of control, right? Where everything in life is divided into two things that we do control and things that we do not control. So um he also said that a man is as happy as he has convinced himself, or I think a man is as unhappy as he convinced himself, right? So the only thing that changes is the numbers, right? Unless you let it change you emotionally, right? Putting on a point 10 lot or even like a standard lot, there's no difference, right? In terms of pressing the button, right? You either click the one lot or the point 10, like which one is it? And then you put the order in, right? There's no difference other than the lot size. But
Mhm.
psychologically though, there could be that barrier where it's like, oh shit, I know that I'm putting on a much bigger lot than I'm used to. Or maybe this is your first time trading a standard lot, or a first time, you know, your first time trading a two or a three lot or whatever, you know, and that can be intimidating for some people. Shit, I knew it was intimidating for me, you know, because I knew what it was like to trade the micros and even like a few different micro. And then I know what it was like to trade the E mini as well. And even though it's the same button pressing and it's the charts are 99.9% identical between micros and e-minis, it's way different because in my head I'm going, all right, this e-mini is 10 times the micro. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I only let that affect me emotionally if I let it. You know what I mean? So there is that kind of caveat to the idea of 10xing. It's sometimes I think a trader's worst enemy is themselves, you
Yeah.
know?
I
So,
think I'd say it too. It's like I demo like that's for the newest trader right on here. Like I demoed uh at those numbers. So like if let's say you had potentially $10,000 capital, but you're wanting to do one of the funded platforms out there that has like the 6 figure whatever. Um, what you're gonna want to do is demo. I demoed 3 months on those numbers with my game plan, and I didn't even go pay for any of those type of things until I knew I could work it out on the demo, and it worked out. So like when I tell people about this stuff, I'm like, yo, you got to get familiar with these numbers. Like 1% of 1,000 is 10, but 1% of 100,000 is 1,000.
yeah.
it's so yeah, so it's just like like if you've only made potentially and in your life between $2,000 and $5,000 a month, like your normal income, yeah, it's gonna make you sweat when you first start. So I'd say the biggest thing when I started too is just like treating this almost like a game, right? Like really looking at this as a game, like taking away that you're making money and the ego and demo, like you can demo because you take away the ego and listening to what other people say and work your plan, and the next thing you know you become skillful over time. And then now it doesn't even matter what amount of capital you have because you're so locked in on your game. And that's one of the biggest things I could say is if you guys take away, like with Jordan Morgan, when I first worked with him, he had me take $100 and do a micro account. And he was like, if you can't make $10 off of off of $100, then you can't make 10,000 off of 100,000. So
Mm-hmm.
like go play, like if you have, maybe you have a certain amount in your account right now, go demo 10x that and play your game and see what it looks like. Get familiar. So like the last example on this is like you're not gonna go to the gym and say, yeah, like today you bench 225 rep and then you go tomorrow and try to do 425. Right? You're gonna need to go do some negatives and get the feel of what it feels like. So yeah, that's kind of like my example of it is, get that feel. Don't just dive in there and blow the account, you know what I mean? And then spend more
Yeah.
money.
No, that's one of the worst things you can do is blow an account. And I think anyone who's been trading for at least, I don't know, 2 to 3 years has got to at least blown one or two. You know what I mean? Like that's like your indoctrination to becoming a real trader. Are you a real trader if you've never blown an account? You know what I mean? Like I'm questioning people's validity on that. You know what I mean? But real
Yeah.
quick, guys, if you got some value out of today's presentation so far, make sure to like the video and subscribe if you aren't subscribed already. That helps get us on the algorithm, that helps get us in front of more people so we can get more likes, more subs, more people in the chat, and all that. And of course, we're going to be having more people on here in the future, right? We've had, I think this is like guest number 4 or 5, and I can't wait till we have like guest number 100. You know what I mean? Like, and this is one thing that I have real quick. We're gonna get back to Ricky in just a second, and I still have you on the screen, brother. And actually, this whole entire time I've put Ricky on the screen, but I've also got the Nasdaq up here. I've had a line at 11,831. I kind of been watching it, and I feel like we're gonna trade below that low, just because. Real quick, this morning we made a low at 845, and the other indices actually they were selling off here, and I figured we'd come back and mitigate, and we did end up doing that on the Nasdaq, but unfortunately I didn't have an order there. I didn't have an order there. I ended up having an order on the S&P, and that never actually got filled. So it's very unfortunate for that, dude. Fucking gold the other day, I missed it by 1 tick. Yesterday I shorted S&P on some order flow on a small time frame, and I didn't hold on long enough. And then today I had an order on the S&P, but Nasdaq was the one who mitigated. So man, this week was just a little bit unlucky or unfortunate for myself. So it wasn't a bad week. I just could have done way better. But look, man, it is what it is. I'm not perfect, but hopefully we see the Nasdaq continue lower. But real quick, chat guys, if you have any questions for Ricky, you can ask them as well. It doesn't have to just be questions from myself. So let me ask you this, again, kind of going off the script here. So you mentioned our boy Bobby P, right? Rest in peace, Bob Proctor. I'm pretty sure you mentioned some other, you said Kevin Trudeau as well. So I know that I think it was Bob Proctor and some others who had like The Secret. It was Kevin Trudeau, Your Wishes You Command, like Willow said, and some others as well. Off the dome, do you have any quotes or any notes that you may have from those gentlemen? I know you mentioned time, things I must experience, and don't despite small beginnings. Do you have any other nuggets of wisdom for the viewers today?
Yeah, I've got two things. One is when it comes to, I think like teaching and doing this type, like not just teaching it, but like just being a trader
Mm-hmm.
is something I live by is that you cannot teach what you do not know, and you cannot lead where you will not grow. Right. So like that's one of the main things that like when I'm looking for like someone's out there looking for mentorship, like from like someone like yourself, etc., is people really when they're teaching, I want to make sure they're teaching and they're doing what they're teaching. Right. So you
Mm-hmm.
cannot teach what you do not know, and you cannot lead where you will not grow. And then the other one is something that was shared with me when I was, in the midst of the trade house, day in, day out. Something that, if you're familiar, I don't know if you do know, obviously you know Matthew Ramirez, but
Yeah.
um, this is something that has stuck with me since the day I started really taking this serious. And it's like the illiterate of the 21st century are not people who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn, right? So the illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who cannot read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So I think one of the biggest things that you have to be able to come into this space and do is you have to be willing to relearn, right? Like you may do something right for a little bit of time and realize that you might have been doing it a little bit wrong, but getting good results, but you're creating bad habits, right? So I'd say one of the biggest things you can do is just stay in that mindset of being a student and be ready to, accept change, right? That's kind of what KT talks about. Just, being in that mindset. I'm gonna say it one more time. The illiterate of the 21st century will not be those who can read and write, but those who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn.
There you go. There you go. Very nice. Very nice. So, we got a question from Naruto. I don't know if you can see the YouTube chat or not, Ricky, but Naruto asked, "What were your biggest challenges in getting yourself to be consistent and trusting yourself?"
That's a good one. Consistency starts with accountability with oneself. So don't break promises to yourself. And so what helps me is my morning routine. I'm very, very strict on my morning routine, how I wake up. The first few minutes, I mean, it's so critical. The first 5, 10 minutes of you waking up, really having a goal, right? And visualizing your goal, seeing your goal. Like one thing I do when I first wake up is I hear my goal, I speak my goal, and I write my goal. So like it's hard to have a bad day or to deter from what you're trying to do if that's how you start your day. So that might be able to help you. And then another thing when it comes to reading, a lot I believe leaders are readers, and I think what really helps is just like for me, I broke down reading like this. I do 4 15-minute intervals a day, right? And then I do so, which makes up an hour a day, and then you do that for a full year, and you basically read almost a whole month a year, right? So like basically what I'm saying is, and that is just that you got to hold accountability, and you got to take ownership of your time, right? So that's what's really helped me is just honestly just seeing that, I was in a bad place mentally, just being honest, before I started doing this, and I was so confused. So this really just set me on the right path with having that morning routine and then just taking control of my time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, very nice. So, people ask me about morning routines. Personally, I don't have a morning routine that's anything close to what Ricky has. I get out of bed, man. I grab an energy drink so I can wake up. I'm on the charts. Since I am, on social media everywhere, I get up and I check my phone for notifications and stuff like that. And I know some people say not to check your phone the first 30 minutes and stuff like that, but when you have an online presence, man, you gotta connect with your people. So that's what I choose to do, and that's what I'm gonna stick with. So but yeah, man, you kind of unpacked a lot. Always being a student. That's one of the sayings that we have here in the trade house as well. That's one of our core values. Essentially, is always remaining a student. You can't learn if you think you already know. You know what I mean? And that's like another stoic idea as well. I forgot the exact quote, but it's something like that. You can't teach a man what he thinks he already knows, or something along those lines. So leaders are readers, right? So you said you read 4 times a day, right? 15-minute increments, and that's actually pretty interesting. And is that like an attention span thing? Like, or is it just you can give a solid 15 minutes, but then after that, like, is it you have to do something else, or do you just find yourself losing focus? Like, what is the purpose of these 15-minute increments of reading?
Well, when I didn't have that much time, I really truly believe in like compound interest being the eighth wonder of the world. So I just look at it like this: there's two people. There's one that says they're gonna do it and they're gonna start, and they
Mm-hmm.
never do, right? They never read.
Yeah.
And then there's the person that, like I said, they read an hour a day and they break it into 4 pieces. So as soon as I wake up, right after trading, right after lunch or the gym, and then right before I go to bed. And then, like I said, if you do that for obviously 7 days a week, that's 7 hours, right? And
Yep.
then you do that day of the month, and then you look at the end of the year, you've read about almost about a week or two, something like that. So basically, what I'm saying is why I do it is because one, it's not attention span or anything like that. What's crazy is I actually grasp more, and I've actually become a better reader because I stayed consistent. So like my goal is always just to like do things that create consistency and like habits and that. So like I said, when you're starting off reading, I know you talk to people and they say, "Oh, I don't like to read. I'm just gonna listen to the audio," right? Well,
Yeah.
it's like that's cool, but there's something special about you reading it. And so, like I said, like it started off with me. I could only read, like you said, yeah, I could only read 15 minutes at a time in the beginning. But now it's incredible, like how much I'm grasping in those 15 minutes. And sometimes, you're gonna go over 15 minutes. You're gonna go 30 minutes. You may even sit there for an hour. There's been days where I've like sat there and been like, I'm gonna read for 15 minutes, and then I just end up finishing the book,
Yeah.
right? So I mean, it just depends on what you're reading and stuff too. So,
Dude, I lost count how many books I've read in the last 2 years. I mean, dude, I think it was 2022. I read at least like 10 or 12 John Maxwell alone. You know what I mean? And granted,
yeah,
like 3 or 4 of those were the small ones, but dude, some of those were the fucking 350 page ones. You know what I mean? Like leadership and stuff like that. That's no easy read, man. That it took some hours, you know? So I totally
mhm.
get it. Before I share the book I'm reading right now, what book are you reading right now? What are you on?
So I just finished. I think I have it right here. Let me do it. I just finished The Richest Man in Babylon, which was a short read.
Mm-hmm.
I always keep like like the normal books, like the I say the cliche books, right? That they can go rich. I keep all that close to me too.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, Richest Man in Babylon. I just started. I just recently finished it. It was a phenomenal book, and one of the biggest things I really just got from it was just the fact of this guy, it's crazy. So this guy basically, I don't want to ruin the book for you guys, but this individual was the richest man in the city, right? Um, Way back when. And essentially people were wanting to know, how did he get rich? How did he acquire his wealth, right? And what's crazy is they thought that he come from, a rich family and stuff like that. Lo and behold, at the end of the story, he had started off his life as a slave. so
Wow.
um so how he was able to do that was every time that he was think about all the times we pay other people, your cell phone bill, your internet, anything else, right? We're always paying other people. But let me ask you a question. How many times have you paid yourself out of the money that you make? And so like that was the biggest question that was asked of me in that book. And it says, for every time, let's just say hypothetically, for every time you get $1, you save 10 cents. Or every time you get $100, you save $10, right? So basically, what he was teaching you to do in the book is to save 10% of all the income that you bring in and pay yourself first, and
Yeah.
just keep building that up. And then potentially, if you have, investment come by, you can deploy it at it. For example, in the book, there was a part where, this is way older times. I can't really remember exactly the times. I'm just saying older times. But basically, he had acquired, from doing that for about a year or two, he had acquired a little bit of wealth at the time. And then he was wanting to take that um, and put it into an investment. Well, because of his awareness and not knowing what he didn't know, he took that and he invested his earnings into an individual that didn't really have the results that he was looking for. He said that he was a brick maker, but he had been doing something else. He just started making bricks. So the individual gives over his wealth. Obviously, the brick maker quit doing the business because it just wasn't really for him. So he learned a lesson for the next time, and he learned that he need to find, kind of like what we're talking about today. Individuals that have the results in the fields that you're looking for, and you need to follow their lead. And I think the biggest thing I really got from it was just that for every time I make money, I need to be paying myself for the rainy days. So a really phenomenal book, honestly, and it's a short read. So
Yeah. No, it's interesting because that's actually a chapter in my next book, which I've already written that chapter. And just to give you guys a little bit of insight, it's very similar to that idea, but I actually take it a couple of steps further. So that chapter is called "Pay Yourself Daily," but you can pay yourself in different ways. So I won't give you all that because you're gonna have to read the fucking book whenever I release it. I'm still writing it, so you got to give me some time here. But it's a really good idea. You know what I mean?
mm,
There was a gentleman who signed up for the Navy, went to the Navy recently, and before he left for boot camp, right? He approached me. He was like, "Hey, John, I want to be a trader. I'm going into the Navy. I know that you're a trader, and I know that you were in the Navy. Like, can you give me any tips, any advice? And I said, look, man, when I went into the Navy, my dad told me this. He was like, look, you need to save, a certain 5 or 10% of whatever you get paid. He's like, you need to save money, right? And I'm like, fucking 19-year-old. I'm like, yeah, whatever, whatever. So of course I had a few grand to my name, right? Which when you're 19, a few grand is like, oh, I'm better than you peasants, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I was like, nah, I know what I'm doing, man. I got like 4 grand. Like, everyone could just fuck off, right? So I think it was like the first year and a half in the Navy. I didn't save any of my paycheck, but the last 2 years, I actually set it to where, believe it or not, I was saving about 50% of my check.
Mm.
Now, I didn't start that way, but it was like, all right, I'm gonna save 10%, I'm gonna save 20%, and then around the time where I stopped going out, stopped going to out to eat, stopped hanging out with friends, I was focusing on forex more. I had government housing because I was in the Navy, so I stayed in like an apartment complex for free, right? So no bills. I don't even think I ever turned the bathroom light off once in like the 2 years that I was there. That was like my nightlight, bro. I always had the fucking bathroom light on 24/7. But anyway, it's completely irrelevant, but I'm just letting y'all know, fun shit. But I didn't have any bills other than like internet and a few minor things. So every time I got paid, half of that was coming to me. Half of that putting into forex account, putting into stocks account. I had a little bit of cash as well, and stuff like that. And that definitely helped grow wealth for a long amount of time. To this day, out of all the money that I make, I still put a decent amount to the side. As a matter of fact, what I've been doing over here is I've been refreshing this email. I would show you, but it's got a tracking number on it and my address and shit, so you can't. I'm not going to share that. But I'm actually supposed to be getting a shipment between now and the next 2 hours, and it's some silver that I bought last week. So I got some physical silver that I'm buying, and again, not a recommendation, but that's coming in. And just kind of putting wealth in different spots in different areas. So I totally agree, with that idea of paying yourself, setting yourself up for a future date. You know what I mean? Like, the silver that I'm buying right now, dude, I might not sell that for years or maybe never. I might just pass that along after I die. I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? But I set myself up like today, 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I was in the Navy. I'm like, bro, I don't want to do this shit no more. I want to be at home. I want to be on the charts. I want to trade. I don't want to be at a job and be sweating all day, working in a fucking warehouse with no air conditioning and all that kind of shit. Like, bro, I don't like this. You know what I mean? So what can I do to set myself up for later? And that was part of it. Not just learning how to trade, not just learning how to be a business owner, an entrepreneur, but how to handle your money. You know what I mean? How to pay yourself and how to save up for a rainy day. And it's really hard. Delayed gratification for a lot of people is very difficult. So real quick, so you said the richest man in Babylon, right? So I don't know if you can see, but I'm sharing it on YouTube real quick. So I actually just finished up another book yesterday called A Guide to the Good Life. Here, I'll blow it up real quick for the stream. It's called A Guide to the Good Life by William B. Irvine. I finished that and I started this one. It's called Thoughts of a Philosophical Fighter Pilot by Jim Stockdale. If you do follow me on Twitter, I did share the link to where you can get a copy of this one. And if you do that, I will receive a commission, but it doesn't cost you anything extra. And yeah, I mean, this guy talks about Epictetus. He talks about his time in the Navy. He was captured and, faced a lot of problems, torture and all that kind of shit. So it's pretty good so far. I've gotten a few takeaways from it. And it's pretty great. So like you said earlier, leaders are readers. And funny enough, I had two people reach out to me yesterday, and both of them said that. Well, one of them said, "Hey, I appreciate you getting me back into reading, right? Because it helped her with some things that she had going on in her life." And then another one had messaged me a few hours prior and actually said she had actually thanked me for putting her on to Stoicism, right? Like Stoic philosophy, because she had taken a vacation in Hawaii recently. She just got back. And she was like, "Yeah, I met this guy. We had a wonderful conversation, and we went down the rabbit hole of philosophy. You know, that they talked about like Marcus Aurelius and Epictetus, Seneca probably, and something else. I don't remember. Oh, and Ryan Holiday and Robert Greene. You know, and it's like, wow, that's really cool. You know, and this is why I do these things. Though I don't do it for the glory, man. Like it's not me. I'm just kind of the not the gatekeeper per se, but it's like, look, man, if I find something beneficial, I'm gonna tell you guys about it. If I'm reading this book, I'm gonna tell you, right? And then also too, here's the other side to that. Part of that too is for I don't know what you would call this, but someone could basically say, well, John, you know, he never told me about meditations. He never told me about philosophy. He never told me how to trade, right? Oh, this guy's an asshole. He kept all his information, right? He never told me anything. It's like, nah, bro, I'm transparent. Tell you guys everything. Everything. You know what I mean? So that's a part of it as well. But um anyways, just to give you an update, it's on your screen. NASDAQ trading below 11,831, and you see that beautiful I mean, look at that, man. Look at that. Just new low. I think this is a daily low as well. So we just took the low from March 2nd. Man, that is crispy. That is super clean. At least on a 5 minute time frame. I mean, this morning was a little choppy, is a little strange, but um, this was incredible, and that happened right at 11:30, so about halfway in the lunch hour, which not the greatest timing in the world, but still a very, very nice setup. And the reason for that as well is if you go to the S&P, no, the Dow, okay, the Dow was actually higher. So if you guys can see that from 7:30 up to about 10:30, right? You see that higher high on the Dow Jones, whereas the S&P was unable to make a new high from this morning, and there was some equal lows down at 38.87. I don't want to long when there's equal lows. That's one of my rule of thumb. I don't long when there are equal lows. I mean, that's just like that's just a really fucking bad idea. You know what I mean? At least in my opinion. Nasdaq didn't have equal lows, but it's still just like the S&P failed to go higher from this morning. So this breakdown in price only further confirmed the idea that we trade down in here. We came up, respected that mitigation fucking beautifully, and then look how many down candles there are here, man. When you're in a short position and all price does is print down candles, man, this shit is like a drug, dude. It doesn't get any better than being in a short and price continuously just dramatically going your direction, you know? So real quick, I know we've been on here for almost an hour, and just to kind of wrap things up with the last at least the final question that I have for you, and if you want to stick around, you're more than welcome to do so. But so I kind of just walked through one of my favorite setups, which is the mitigation, right? Some people call it different things, whatever. I think personally that names don't matter, but context does, right? So whatever you call it doesn't fucking matter. Let me ask you this. What kind of setups do you look for? Like, what is your primary setup? And you can share your screen. You can take it over. I'll let you share whatever it is that you want to share. And then if there's any more questions from the chat, I will ask them to you, but you are free to take the screen, broski.
Okay, bro, appreciate that. Let's see here. So, when it comes to setups, so I've been trade logging since I've been trade logging my trades even when I was demo trading, right? So for me, that has been One of the biggest things for me is just like really understanding like what's going on since then. So I'm a mitigation trader. Basically, after doing all this trading, and like I said, looking at those logs, seeing what times I lose, seeing what times I win, seeing what setups were profitable and what weren't, I've really narrowed it down to I don't know if you guys can see this right here, like with my screen. But yeah, so I've really narrowed it down to inside this book here. Uh, and so it may be showing, but basically this is just a trade plan, a written out trade plan. What I'm gonna, it's like a troubleshoot, right? So it's like if a plane was crashing and then you're inverted and it left engines on fire, this book right here is gonna tell you what to do. All right. So I'm gonna kind of share with you guys some of that here on the charts. Now, what I like to do as this is gonna be fun for you, John, because this is just like me trying to live inside your brain. All right.
All right.
So
Oh
when I
shit!
look,
Hold on. What I did, pinned the wrong screen. So give me
okay,
just a second. I don't know how to pin the other one.
okay.
I fucked up. Oh, there we go. We're good now.
Okay, cool. So you guys can see the three charts.
Yep.
Okay, so how I do everything when it comes to trading, obviously is the same as what you do, but and really quick, I just want to make that clear. I'm super grateful for you, and I just want to say thank you for everything that you've done personally and the time that you've given. And I just, I'm always praying for you, bro. I'm always praying that blessings keep coming your way and more opportunities. And yeah, so I just want to make sure I put that out there. But and I'm grateful that you actually had me on here to explain some of this stuff because, I'm basically just living inside your mind.
Hey,
But
you're welcome, man. Look, real quick before you get into it, man. This is
uh,
one of my dreams. Oh, that's what I meant to say earlier. I think I must have went off on a tangent and completely fucking forgot. I want students to hear from other students. Like I love teaching, don't get me wrong. I'll do this shit for a long time, not forever, but you know, I don't want to just be the only educator. You know what I mean? And there's a few of us, but I feel like students should learn from other students because I think I explain things pretty well. That's just what people tell me. But you might explain things differently, or you might put it in a way where it'll connect with people, differently than me. So I can talk about my experiences all day long, but, I want students to hear from other students. And when people are popping off, bro, I want to give people recognition, right? The trade house gave me the recognition, right? Long time ago, I was doing my thing and they put me on, right? And that's what I want to do. I want to put other people on. I want to give back, and either give you a following or just give you like, recognition at the end of the day. So you get recognition, I get to take a little break from teaching, and then people still get value. So everybody fucking wins. You know what I mean? So, but enough of
I'm
me and my shenanigans. I will let you do your thing.
I'd say this too. Another thing I've learned through like when I like, through showing people trading and stuff like that, when we do back testing, is I actually see some of my own flaws and things I could actually get better at. So it's kind of a win-win situation on that. But okay, so just diving straight in, how I wake up in the morning, like after I finish the morning routine, I don't even try to, I like made glimpse at the charts on my Trading View app just to see where dollar is and then to see where indices are, right? Because I only really trade dollar, euro, and indices. That's it. Um, so when I woke up this morning, I'll just kind of dive right into here. I seen basically on the at 7 a.m. So here, Central Time Zone, Dallas, Texas. 7 a.m. was right here, right? This candle before it falls. And so what I was seeing was that, at 7 a.m. price was already falling and making lower lows, right? So this is for dollar index. So for me, when I'm looking for that New York position, like right at the open when it comes to indices, if dollar's falling, obviously we do the opposite of dollar, right? If dollar's falling, we want to buy XXX USD. So when I looked at it this morning for NAS, I'm just going to stick with, I'll look at all three of them, but I'm going to stick to just the breakdown on NAS. So like you were saying, I keep the dailies here on my other bigger window. Obviously we've gotten that push down on all three, right? Lower lows here,
Yeah.
destroying the equal lows here when it comes to NAS, and then we destroyed this price here on S&P. So for me, I like really am about technical and structure. So when you look at S&P, that's actually just technically a lower low, right? So what could we anticipate potentially, like this is Friday, but just saying going forward, well, potentially we could potentially see something like that, and then another extension down, or maybe it continues up. We don't know, right? But right now, that's what we've got technically on the daily is that we've created the lower low. So all three of them doing that, that was really exciting. And then to jump down into like a smaller like intraday, this is going to be Dow Jones here on the far left. This is going to be Nas here in the middle, and then S&P on the far right. One thing I want you guys to see when you go back to just Nas alone, that's the one I like to trade the most, is like he asked, what setups do I look for? Well, I look for mitigation setups, right? So the other thing that I really focus on is going to be time, right? So not only do I want it to be a mitigation setup, right? I have to identify one, is it accumulation or distribution? Cool. Then once I identify that, does price and time meet, right? So when I used to sit with Mike Miles, I was very technical about 3, 6, or 9 numbers and stuff like that. But when you look right into this trade today on the 5 minute, you can really see everything that you need to see, right? So I'm gonna actually just start completely over and do the break and just mark it up how I would mark it up in the morning. So as soon as I come in my system, the first thing I do is I mark that open of the day, right? So I really focus like you have taught, John, on opening price. So I come in here, I mark this, and I like to see how all the assets together line up once I have all this stuff lined up before the open. So I have the daily open here for Friday, right? Because you always say buy below the opens or sell, and buy below the opens in bullish conditions, sell above the opens in bearish conditions, right? So I really
The
stick to
logic. Yeah, the opening price logic. Yeah.
yeah, I stick to that no matter what. So it's going to be the daily open for Friday, and then we have the London Open, which would be the 2 a.m. candle, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I usually use your tool, but sometimes like I have to take it down so that it won't like mess with the candles. Um, but when you're first starting out, and you don't know where it's at, then you would just go to the indicators and have your tool. So London Open. And so now it's about price action and time for me. All right. So now what we want to do is mark that New York Open. What time was that? Right there. So New York Open. All right. So now we have New York Open marked in blue. We have our daily open marked in red, and then we have our London Open. I also usually have the market open because there's manipulation at the market open. So let's just go ahead and do it no matter what. Because I want to that level is always a key level as well for me.
Which open are you talking about?
The open of the market, the overall market for the week.
Oh, the weekly open.
Yeah, the weekly open.
Okay, yeah.
So yesterday,
I like weekly open, but it's just like it's really more for swing traders too. Like, oh, I'm gonna short on Monday or Tuesday and hold to Friday. Like I don't really do that anymore, but it's still important though.
so I'm gonna bring up this picture too really quick. This is actually from Trade House. It's just a document that I use.
Mm-hmm.
Believe Mike Neverett made possibly. Um, but let's look at this really quick. So I only have 7 steps to mitigation that I follow. Obviously, I told you guys point of interest is like one of my big things. I love price to be around the opening price. And then outside of point of interest, I want it to be what's called a 5-minute close entry. So if I'm taking trades in the first 15 minutes or last 15 minutes of an hour, I want to be selling the market when it's taking off, and I want to be buying the market when it's crashing, right? So let's just kind of read price action. The other thing I read on 15 and 5 minutes when I'm like actually locked in is fast pushes, because the way Jordan explained trading to me was that, potentially these large players have such, mass amounts of capital that they can actually push price to hurt traders and go one way and then be able to come back and bring the price back to that area and mitigate themselves out of the loss. So I'm thinking in a ideology of that. Like I'm thinking like, how can I see that? So okay, so we start off right 7:30. I don't take a trade until after the New York Open, and my best trades usually happen around 9 a.m. So right here, as you can see, before we even get started, what did we get at 7:30? Well, we had NFP today, right? So that's when I have a news release, I usually mark that one as well because I play above or below that release as well. So right here, you can identify that they fast push people, right? Up. They push people up here at 7:30. But here's the key thing that I look for. You gave out like your mitigation rules a long time ago, right? And you said that price was to come down right? And it took the Asian liquidity. So this is a break of structure if we're looking at technicals, right? That's a lower low.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as that happens, my group chat goes crazy because they know the MIDI is on the way. And the reason they know that is because of where the price is. So let's just kind of go back and look at it like this. There's no way you're gonna know unless you took in this setup a lot of times, right? So for me, the thing about it was when you jump back into the 5 minute, price is all the way at the lows. Like there's most likely you didn't take that short at the news, and if you did, congratulations. But what you're wanting to see, and what I've noticed over time is FOMO on indices, right? So people will they start what creates imbalances, I believe, is when people play what they see, right? So if the market's falling down, they want to get below this wick, and they're selling, selling. So what does that do? Right? People are in bad positions, and what are they doing with their stops? They're moving their stops break even, and then the price fills an imbalance, right? So the thought process of the gamer is really where it really adds in here for me now, and like it gives you a little clarity to if you're a single mom or dad, whatever it could be, to know that you're going to set your setups only in those first 15 or last, and that's it. And it creates what Mark Douglas talks about, which is like probabilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
You start thinking in this probabilistic mindset, which it just helps you a lot. So going forward, when you're looking at time now, let's go ahead and look at this open. So we had the news release push up that took out traders from London, right? Price then falls and makes the lower low below the Asian lows, which is very key. When I take trades, I like to, if like I took a buy here, I'm going to show you guys. I like to play above or below the range, right? So this was actually the range of the day. And so right under here, we actually had a small, I mean, like this is like something I took. This is a trade that I took just kind of like more intuition, playing back to point of interest. So when I take an entry, I'm always playing to a point of interest as well. So we locked in a position um, based off how our rules work, right? We want to buy when the market's crashing, we want to sell when it's taking off, and then 5 minute closes. So as you guys can see, price had already pushed out of this area, creating a new high. Like it's kind of hard to see like a 1 minute, right? Like this, but it actually creates a new higher high. And then in that 5 minute close, it pulled back, giving you a favorable risk to put your stop at the low and start targeting at minimum points of interest for 1 to 3. So I'll kind of give you guys an example of how it looked. I personally, and this for me personally, when it comes to indices, I like to give them a little bit of room to breathe. When I trade NAS, I'm giving about a 20 to 15 risk. I'm giving about sorry, my phone, someone called me. I'm giving about a 20 to 15 point risk. And on Dow, I'm doing about 30 max, right? So let's just say here we did 15. Now 15 for 45 is a 1 to 3. When we're just talking points, right? We're not talking about any money or anything like that. 15 for 45 is a 1 to 3. So right there, oh, wrong one, sorry. 15. So that's a 15 point risk. And then you're going for at minimum 45 because we're always trying to, 3 times what we're putting out, right? And so let me see here, ticks.
That's intimidating for some people because they're looking at this market. It's funny enough, you have black and white candlesticks. Most people, I think, when they start out, have green and red candlesticks. So all they see is a screen of red. And, they may not want to long that because it's like, the market's bearish, right? It's all red. But it's like, yeah, but you buy low, fam.
So you can see right here, like this trade, like you can condense this down, but like I've just come to realize like you need to like let it breathe a little bit. Cause if you try to like when I was like first starting sniper training, I would say I was sniping things, but like I would get stopped out and they would go back in my favor. And I was like, yo, like this what's going on? Like I know I'm doing everything right. So this was a situation where price pops up, makes a higher high, pull back, higher low, timing, nice, right? So here's how I manage the trade when it comes to just NAS, and especially with funded capital, et cetera, or whatever. If you're just a percentage trader, right? It doesn't matter if you're. That's why people can follow my trading, because like if I tell them, hey, trade a $10,000 account with percentages and trade 100. If they have this someone online, right? If they have $100,000 account, well, hey, if we make 1%, you make 1% of your account size, and I make 1% of my account size, right? So how I manage this is right here. I always go for 3%, and I always look to go for 5%, and I want that 5% to be at that daily open or the New York Open. Because essentially what you got to think is like, there's so many sells right here from the New York Open and people capping off their position, right? And then the other liquidity, if you really take a look at NAS, the top, when you look for double tops and double bottoms, I use arrows for double tops that point me to the direction of where the price is going to go. Let me turn this on. And so the other thing is, learning from you, something I really pay attention to is going to be 80 levels, right? So like I seen my liquidity target and I was like, okay, this is where I want to get to today. And then I have that 80 levels and understanding in these imbalances of like, okay, maybe they could turn price around in those areas. But just going forward really quick. Now, let's say you secured the 3%, because that's very doable, right? So now that you secured the 3%, there's a certain way that I move my stop, but I just want to show you guys how this trade played out and actually how we took the short, right? Because sometimes we buy to sell and sell to buy. Took this short to get the trade of the day, I think, right? So price goes up and price definitely goes into here and almost comes back, right? And then it kept going, right? So what I want to show you guys too is something about multiple time frames, right? So you want to have multiple time frames working with you. So what I do is I like to have the 5 and the 1 minute. So the 5 would be here, the 1 minute would be here. So we're looking at that same trade. Right? So how it looks, it gets a little difficult. Let me erase this stuff. Sorry, I think I'm about to erase some of it. Okay, so I'll have to gear that one back up. Sorry.
It looks like we're coming off that daily low that we just met too.
Nice. So that's the other thing is I only take trades until about 11. So like I like to be when power hour is happening, I like to be like in the most crucial moment, right? Like I'm hoping that like I'm just riding the wave with them. But so when you're looking at 5 and 1 minute, one thing you can notice, like I said, is you're below the range, right? So that was, pretty good. Now this isn't like a higher time frame mitigation 5 minute setup that I usually take, but this is something that I would play up to get to my short. So as you can see, we ran through and we got to those price levels. So you would have hit potentially, even if you cut these positions in half, a 1 to 3, possibly 1 to 8 or 1 to 4, right? So those are good setups. But where I would say the real setup came today was with what you say all the time, bro, is when price, I've noticed something about 5 and 15-minute price. So when price actually made from this low right here to this low, right? I don't know what I got all going right here. Sorry. Some other stuff, but that's a lower low, right? And so what that actually does for me when I'm reading just price action is that puts me in a position of, let me pull this up really quick. What? Okay, give me 1 second. Okay, so this is what I do. These are the 7 steps of mitigation, right? So where we go crazy is when step 6 happens, when they actually take that lower low, right? Because now we're waiting for price and time on that pullback for step 7, right? So now when you look back on this trade, look at the timing right here. This is 8:45. We took that on a 5-minute close. We rode that all the way back up. I was hoping that it was going to get to these highs, but something I noticed, right, when you're a composite thinker, you can see that like this was turning into a mitigation. They had already made the lower low, price pulled back to where though? Above daily open, above New York Open in bearish conditions, right? Because essentially those are bearish conditions because price had already showed you a lower low. So with seeing that, it's easy to come in on a 1 minute, right? And now I know the area I'm looking for, and I'm looking for fast pushes on a 5 minute. So they fast push it at what time here? 10:30. I don't take trades at 10:30, right? Just me personally, I don't. But where I do take trades, right, is right here. An imbalance fills on 1 minute inside that area. So we were actually on stream together today, and at what time? 10:40, right? So that was a little close. We do like the 10:40s, right? 10:40 comes up, and what it does is it puts you in a favorable risk reward. So even though we took the buy position, we partialed that position as soon as we got a 5-minute structure break. So let me kind of show that how I do that real quick. So what there's in my trade plan right here, right? There's also things I have written out for what's going to make me exit the trade, right? So let's just say this hypothetically, if I don't cut I was trying to go for here, right? I was trying to get a 1 to 9, let's just say 1 to 10, but But right here instead, this is what I was actually left with, right? Because my rule says if it breaks 5 minute structure, I'll exit that trade and look to add that partial back, or I'm okay with that for the day. It just depends on what the day looks like, right? So right here, what we did, price came down, broke that structure, but we also sold into that price, right? Because we had a feeling on Fridays, that's just how they do. They like to erase players. I say. So essentially, it's the same move when you come back up. Price comes and makes that lower low. Price then runs back in those last 15 minutes of the hour and then breaks down. But the key to this trade, like I said, is that you're playing Fibonacci retracement at a high level, which I would say above the noobs, right? Noobs are 61.8 players to me. I only take trades at 71%, 78.6, and 88.6, right? And then when it comes to my stop loss placement, I don't put mine past the body close of the candles. So like right here, I would probably put them right here. But like I said, when we took this trade today, I didn't, after this buy was, completed, I I didn't have the thought process that they were all gonna run down like this, but then I want to show you all three of them together, right? So, and the timing, right? And which one looked the best. Now, for some reason for me, S&P and NAS, they move, like pretty good together usually. Like they correlate pretty good. Dow actually has a mind of her own. All right. So one thing you can notice that kind of gives you a little bit more clarity is with this trade is look at the difference on S&P and NAS. Right. For example, you don't have the break lower than Asian lows here. Right. So I may not take that midi that was above the daily open on this one above New York Open. But the reason why I took this trade here was simply because it meets those 7 steps that I showed you guys, right? And those 7 steps, it basically went under that under the Asian lows and then spikes back up. And that's my setup, over and over and over and over and over. I look for the same thing on shorts, right? But it has to be price and time and everything will link up and then having targets. So as long as the target's about a 1 to 3, 1 to 5%, then I can manage that trade when it comes to like a higher time frame here on the daily. And what I do is everything's fractal, right? So, I'm playing back down on the daily into these levels. I'm marking whole and half levels, so 11,500, 11,250, and down, and kind of just looking at the game like that. But like for me, taking those buys, the other thing that is, like I said, is the dollar, right? So as the intraday dollar, right? And the dollar can be tricky, so you don't want to just base everything long term you do, but like you don't want to base intraday stuff too much off of it. But one thing you can notice is at 9:45, price did start pulling back up, and so like there's a lot of liquidity I believe on dollar that's just sitting like in this area. So what made me short the price is that here at the end of the day when it comes to NAS is because I had a feeling that dollar is going to continue bullish. Like my overall long-term bias right now, and that's really important too, is that dollar was going to continue bullish. But you never know. It's day to day. But that's pretty much like how I set up everything when I look at all three. Let me go back to this window really quick. I look for mitigation setups. I look for price and time, and I like to make sure that I'm not risking over 15 to 20 points, especially on a NAS trade. So
Yeah.
let me see here. And then is this Dow all together? So you can see here on Dow too, like, to me, I wouldn't have personally played a play like this because, let me go back on that 1 minute really quick. Because one, it wasn't around a point of interest. So NAS was just the prettiest play for me today when it comes to playing what I want to see. And I'm just trying to look for that 3 windows that I had where they're all three on there. Oh, okay. And so something you can notice too about looking at them all three at once is when you have all three together, right? And when you hover over that price, that fast push up candle right here at 10:15, it's kind of like we were talking about on the phone the other day, selling that 15-minute close and then giving the market room to breathe and then targeting that first low. It is clockwork with these mitigations, bro.
Bro, it's funny that you say that for room to breathe, because it was actually right here on this on this YouTube channel. It was Friday of last week. If you could pull up a 1 minute chart of the S&P from last week, so that's gonna be March 3rd.
Gotcha. 1 minute chart here, and then all
or shit, it might have been Monday or Tuesday. Fuck, now I
Looks like
don't
it
know.
only the 1 minute only goes back to looks like
Let
Wednesday.
let me pull up my chart really quick and let me just see which day it was, because we talked about that. And
I think it was Friday.
Friday of last week on
I
on
think
YouTube.
was that where it was. Let's see.
Man, I really got to start writing this shit down
It's
because
where it finished somewhere like the week that it was like the closing hours and we were talking about it.
no, not that one.
Oh,
That
okay,
one,
okay.
that one I told you about. You were the only one I told about that too. I was like, watch, it's either gonna go to that one or that one, and then wait for that willingness. Give me 1 second, chat. It was the other day where, oh, it was Wednesday. Okay, real quick, hold on. Let me just pull it up real quick on my chart just to make sure. Um, yeah. All right, so it was Wednesday. Okay, can you pull up a 1 minute S&P from Wednesday the 8th?
Yeah, Wednesday the 8th. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, 2 days ago.
Okay, all G and then the 8th.
Oh, I didn't even know you could. I didn't even know you could do that.
Yeah, that's that back testing.
That's that razzle dazzle for you right there.
Yeah, man.
Um, go to the last 2 hours or so of that particular day. Yeah, it was right there. So it was right around 13 or maybe 1300.
Mhm.
There's like a, let me see if I can draw this on Zoom. There's an imbalance right there. And
Yeah.
so I had talked about that might be a potential imbalance within a mitigation, right?
Mhm.
And how that the target was like way up here. But it was the original thought where I said, look, if we put a risk reward there with a stop at this low and targeting up here, that was like a 1 to 3 or a 1 to 4, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then price took off, but then I was like, nah, I'm not really feeling it, and then it comes back down here. And then by that time we had hopped off the stream, right? And
Yeah,
then
yeah. I got something to show you. This is the one I wanted to show you.
bro, show us, because I abandoned the idea, right? And then of course we fucking flew. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So I was just trying to help confirm what you said by, allowing the trade to breathe, right? Giving it more breathing room by allowing, because I mentioned, and this is in the fucking live stream, so, y'all can tell me if I'm cat. It's in the recording, but I said that was going to be our low of the day. Like I said, this is likely that this is going to be our low of the day, and it was, right? And that's why sometimes it's better to loose the stop versus trying to have like that 1 minute, small time frame stop. But go ahead, give us what you got.
So I'll show you on the 5 minute because this happens over and over. So we want to buy below or above the range, right? So in this situation, that range low is right here, right? And then what you end up having is you had, they call it, whatever you want to call it, change of character, break of structure, whatever, right? So price, it creates these equal lows. So when I see that, here's what I think, because it is tricky because we know those are targets for us, right? But I also see them as a retail base that has power, right? So now I'll break this down in the 5 minute to kind of show you why I see it here on the 1 minute. Actually, let me do it now because that'll make more sense. I don't want to like deter you here. So 5 minute. What time was that we were looking at again? The 8th. And then
Yeah, it was Wednesday the 8th, and it was like pretty much the afternoon session, so like the last two, maybe 2.5 hours or so.
okay, so then we're gonna go to S&P here. Then we go there, Alt G, enter. And then that way we can see, because you gotta see it from two windows. I remember talking to you and I was like, wait. I was like, wait for that 5 minute. Okay, so 5 minute, Alt G, enter. And then oh shit, that was an S&P. Alt G,
and,
enter.
and and while you're doing that, chat, just to let y'all know, Rickey has gone down the rabbit hole, man, with not only relative strength but multi-time frame analysis. And I know it's a lot. We can whip around these charts, zoom in on different time frames and stuff like that. And I don't expect you guys to do that in the beginning, but when you practice and you start to know what to look for, it really gets intricate. And it can be confusing at first. If this is your first time seeing multiple screens or multi-time frame, even multi-asset, right? S&P, Dow, NASDAQ. I know it's a lot to take in. It's a lot to grasp. And I'm just like me. I'm sure Rickey didn't get this shit in the first couple days either.
Yeah.
It's a puzzle and you got to put the pieces together. But once you do, your fucking entries just become, that's when you get sniper entries. So
All right.
just
Well,
food for
I'm
thought.
gonna show you some sauce that I think you about to like. All right. So here's one thing I do when I'm looking at multi time frame. That's cool in Trading View. That's really helped me with my entries.
Mm-hmm.
When I click this right here, and when I drop something on one chart, like let's say I'm just identifying that they took that liquidity on the 5 minute, right? And then
Yeah.
what did you get? What did you get from that 5 minute? Well, in the 1 minute, what you're looking at, like you were saying, is in that area we got price accumulating, right? Price started to kind of go sideways. But what would make this a true MIDI to me was when price, look at the timing right here, right? 57, 50, what time did it fall though? 57. So in the last 15 minutes of the hour, what you got actually was you got a higher high created here,
Mm-hmm.
and you got a pullback to that area, which to me makes a favorable risk reward trade, right? So like now I use the open of the candles of the 50%, right? And then I bring my risk to the low of that area, right? Would have been relative with the equal lows, unfortunately. But like I said, sometimes it goes in your favor, but you just got to remember to pay yourself on the way up. And so now you can easily frame up that 1 to 3. But now, do you see that 5 minute to my left?
Mm-hmm.
So here's technicals, right? So now you actually got a break of structure here when you look at the line graph, right? You got a higher high right here. So now you actually have a new range, you have a new low, and you have a new high. And so what they were doing is they're tricking traders at the end of the day, but they actually brought it back to the 5 minute midi. Because if you look at the low here, you have that, if you played that low position, you're fine. Like even the position you're saying, like filling that next imbalance would have been pretty good. But I'm all about like certain like the highs and lows of swings. So like when you look at this 1 minute swing here to this 1 minute high here, right? It pulled back. Well, let's look at this 5 minute here. So the fibs, see where the fibs pulled back to? 71. They went right under the 61A traders, hit the 71, and took off at what time? It was the wrong time that they took off, though, I would say. But this also wanted to show you that really helps me with my entries is like I put the sniper in just to kind of see, right, when I do my back testing. So let's just say you took the entry in here, right? Let's say you took it in here. Well, look what that looks like on the 5 minute, right? But let's say you would have took the entry in that area that I'm saying right here in those last 15 minutes of the hour, right? Look what that looks like on the 5 minute. So now you're actually getting the higher high confirmation. It's kind of like now we're doing the backwards way. You're looking for the buy mitigation, right? So now it's almost like this, uh,
But like the
right?
inverted, yeah, there you go.
So now you have the higher high created, and you're waiting for the pullback on the 5 minute, and that's essentially what they did. They pulled back. You draw your fib 76, 71% entry, and then you were targeting. I always target the last up candles opens and look for like distribution inside these areas.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, obviously, if you go higher than that, obviously you've broken structure again on the 5 minutes. So
Yeah.
one thing I can say that helps me is like doing that is like going back and back testing, and you'll start noticing like when you're buying at the wrong times.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, one thing that was a shorter term target too, I did mention is that imbalance here. You
100%.
can see that on Zoom, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay,
can see it.
I'm just making sure that the stream can see that as well. I know it's kind of a shitty drawing, but like, because I was basically saying, look, if we get emphasis, I want to see us trade into that imbalance and then likely push through it to go up for the highs. But
Mhm.
like you've been ragging on, timing is a really important aspect. So I mean, what time did that candle hit that imbalance? I mean, there's only like what, 20 minutes, 15 minutes left in the day. That's really late. So the
One thing,
probabilities of us running that high that late in the day is very low. So if I had taken that trade, I would have gotten out at that imbalance and then just, wham bam, thank you, ma'am, have a good weekend. You know what I mean?
100%. And that's kind of like I evaluate my trades from the fibs. Like, let's say that you took that trade and you're attempting to get to those tops. Well, I look at that fib and I start thinking about where would I come in as a seller in the last up candle, and that's where like people are going to get rid of those orders from those buys, right? So these also turn into my take profit areas when I'm evaluating where shorts could come in, if that makes sense.
Yeah. No, no, no. Very, very nice. I get it. I get it.
But
Um,
that move was pretty crazy, and how they make you wait till under that wick. And wicks, I love wicks because that's where they manipulate at. Like
oh yeah.
wherever those wicks are gonna be, and you see a strong bullish move like that, and it closed higher high. I would have liked to see it come even lower, but I mean the timing. So it still worked out pretty good. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
you start looking at the clock and it's, winding down and it's like, wait a minute, there's only an hour left. So if we're going to make our move, it's going to have to be now or it's not. And so personally, I still think that day, like, let me see, like, I still think this in general to me was a little sloppy, personal
yeah,
opinion. Another thing too is when you look at that overall day, I mean, we had a nasty move in the morning, then we had a couple nasty moves here, then we got another nasty move. So it's like, okay, we've already done some pretty sick moves 3 times. So am I expecting a fourth move at the end of the day? Like it's asking for a lot, you know what I mean?
yeah.
So it's just when the probabilities of what you want go down, given the time, given the number of moves, how many times liquidity's been taken, stuff like that. That
Mhm.
to me is what signifies whether I should hold my trade or get out, or just not take the trade altogether. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'll do this too. Like, so like one thing that I think trading view is very manipulative. So
That's
like
fucked.
when you look at their last up candle in this 5 minute, if you click it right here, it'll simultaneously go on this other one. And you can start seeing reaction, like what the reactions look like on the smaller time frames. That takes time to see. But like what I look for, like for example, for today, right? Why would I take that short today? Well, I had bought this position. So for example, yeah, let me show this really quick. So this is the same type of setup, right? 5 minute made a low. We were below the range, right? It had went below the Asian lows for the day, and then price did what? It came up and made a new high, right? So on a 5 minute, if you're looking at the open of the last down candle right here, you see how when I did that, it showed up on the 1 minute.
Mm-hmm.
Boom! Look at that candle. And so like now it's like, what time is that? Not the best time, right? That's the only thing I would say about this trade was that the timing. But if you decided that okay, I want, and I personally, we had already took the trade. We took it at the right time though, right? So this just confirmed to us that the 5 minute mitigation play, like they came in, they did this and started running higher. It kind of confirmed to us that like, okay, it might go higher. But what made us take that trade at the end of the day, um, like I said, is because I'm thinking in my head, wow, where are the buys that people who just bought the low? Essentially, technically, this is just a lower low,
Yeah.
right? So like that mitigation play was setting up, and it's like as soon as you get, like we were looking at that S&P move here. When you get a 1 minute play like this, let's just say this was upside down today. That's exactly like inverted like this. That's the same way I would play it. I got the breaker structure here, right? I'm just saying if this was the other way around. I got oh, that's why it's doing that. I was like, why is that making me draw like that? Turn the magnet tool
Oh, it
off.
does that to me all the time.
I was
The
like, what?
magnet tool.
So this price would have came up, you would have had your stop here, but what did you get technically? You got to break a structure, lower low, and then you had to pull back to the area, stop at the high, targeting the first imbalance or down candle, etc. So
I think
it
that's one of the struggles of, the same thing I went through, same thing I still do sometimes, matter of fact. And then kind of like what you were saying, giving the trade room to breathe, because we get down into these small time frames, and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller till, we're on a fucking 15-second chart or just a basic 1 minute chart, and we try to have every trade be a 2 point stop, 3 point stop, when sometimes it's like, dude, 5 or 6 would have been good. But your stop was so tight that now you missed a move versus just being a little bit more loose with it. You know, you would have been in the trade. You know what I mean? So, real quick, guys, before we continue, if you got any value today, make sure that you like the video. Make sure you subscribe if you're not already subscribed. You know, hit the bell notification so you don't miss future content and other times that we go live. You can follow Rickey's Instagram at SirocFX. I think it's in the video title. I think it's in the description as well. So make sure you give him a follow. Make sure that if you got value so far today, to reach out to him, let him know, hey, I received some value. Hey, I got a breakthrough today. Let him know. And that's all that we ask. You know, we're here. It's free. We're giving you the time. We're giving you some juice, some sauce, if you will. And that's all that we ask in return, is just a simple like or a simple comment or a simple just, hey, appreciate it. That's all that we ask for. So, but go ahead and you can continue, broski.
So, I mean, yeah, I would say on the trading side of it, I mean, we can go through countless markups. You know, we could go back to really quick, even the day before we took this trade here. So I'll just kind of go really quickly here. What was yesterday? Thursday? Okay. And then I'll just make sure that it's here. Thursday. Okay, so let's kind of let's walk through it really quick, this short. And it was above market open, so that was even better. Let's see here.
I'm gonna step away for just a second, but I'm still gonna have you up on the screen.
Okay, cool. So just really quickly, if you guys, I'm just gonna go back through how I usually go through the markups. So what you're gonna be doing is you mark the daily open of Friday. So the daily open for me is right here. Or excuse me, for Thursday, so we're going back a day. So this is the daily open, right? And then you have the London open, right, which would have been the start right here, this 2 a.m. candle. So you can actually go in here and save these as templates, so that way you don't have to keep making them every time. So now what you can see is now we're going to mark the New York Open. This is more hindsight. We mark it like I mark the New York Open by 8:33 every time at the open. So like I always know what's going to use. I don't always know, but I have a good idea of what's happening at the open or what manipulation they're doing by 3 minutes in. So this is a 30 candle right here. So that's the New York Open. So now it's going to be all about opening price and playing above it. So New York Open. So for me, price opened at New York. Now I didn't like what I was seeing at New York. So the next time that if I don't like what I see at New York, I play at 9, right? So then what do we get at 9 a.m. on the dot, right? 9:05, we got this 1 minute. This is right here. I'm just gonna showing it here on the right now. At 9 a.m., this was 9:04, 9:03, 9:06, and then what did you get, right? You got this to break lower. Like this little area was kind of going sideways, but then it broke lower right there. So for me, as soon as I seen that, right, technically, what does that mean? Lower low, right? So as soon as that lower low happens, I want to see if price is going to be, playing inside these last up candles. Is it going to be a 78.6 entry, right? 88.6 entry that are all lining up, and is price and time going to match, right? So yesterday we took a trade, a short position. The other reason we took the trade was it met all of our confirmations. Is price above New York Open? Yes. Is price above daily open? Yes. Is price above London Open? Yes. Is price above market open? Yes. So at that point, I mean, we had a wick target, right? We're looking at the London lows or Asian lows as our target, and then the previous low, which would have been this low here, right? So when you look at it now, you can really see that price had made that lower low. So just to bring back that picture one more time really quick, if it actually lets me do it. Okay, so now it's the 7 steps, right? First step is identifying if you're buying or selling, right? Accumulation or distribution. And then that next step is looking for the retail traders, whatever you want to call it, right? The masses, right? Novice traders to get bodied, right? And then you wait for that break of structure. So novice traders get hit, right? It breaks lower low, it pulls back to the area. And at this point in time, you have a target of, I always like if I enter this trade right here, which I did, I'll kind of show you guys where I entered. And this helps if you do this to see where, like when you go back on your trade logs, I entered at 50, right? So it was at 9:50, I entered the trade right there. and I had about a 15-point risk from this point, right? Now I'm going to show you guys how I managed that trade.
Can you,
Right?
real quick, can you show that button that you toggle in order to be able to draw on one chart and have it appear on both? That was
Yeah.
a question I think John asked.
Got this button right here. New drawings are replicated to all charts in the layout that are shown, right? So the other thing is if you don't want it to show up in everything, you got to unclick it, right? So like if I'm drawing on my smaller time frames, I unclick it, right? Yes, sir.
Gotcha.
So
I'm just pointing that out for the stream.
So no, you're good. And then so when it comes down to like my stop losses, like I trade just NAS. That's like my favorite, right? So I'm every time I'm going into it with a predetermined risk with my certain lot size, um, risking 15 or 20 points. So does this meet our game, right? To the structure. Like if price goes higher than this high, we lose, correct? So does this meet our game? Yep, 15 points. If we were targeting from our entry back down to New York Open, is that a 1 to 3? Yeah. Right? If we're targeting London Open in balance, is that about a 1 to 10? Even if you cut it in half, 1 to 5? Yeah. And if you target the London lows, right?
My favorite.
Yeah, I guess that's
That's fucking juicy right there, man.
London lows, right? So now you're looking at something really saucy, right? And you destroyed all these players, and then you would be thinking maybe it gets down to here. But here's the thing with most traders is a lot of the times, when it bounces off this level, one rule I have is I know that point of interest price could just, sometimes to me, I know it can just continue and go that way, right? So what I have is a partial system set up, right? So when this trade this is the same trade. I'm just showing how I would evaluate it. I moved my risk based off of 5 minute up candles, right? So let's just say price made this lower low here. It came up and made that lower high here, and then made a lower low. My risk now goes based off percentages to a 3% secure. I don't have to do nothing, right? And then so now I'm targeting that 50% of the imbalance. If you guys are familiar with the GAN box, I like to see price um, what happens inside the 50% of that GAN box, and price failed. It never went above that red line. It failed to, show any love at London Open. So I knew it was going to tank, right? So that's where I start position. Now, once it tanked lower than here, like right here, you get the push up and then it fails and breaks lower from 12,160. Well, by the end of the day, right? The end of the day is down here. Well, I can just simply come move my risk under all the opening prices on the last push up candle and walk away with about either 12% or 6% potentially. And so I do this habitually the same way over and over. MIDI, timing, move the stop, walk away. And that's what we do every day, bro.
Shit, it's hard to walk away, man. We end up checking our phone every fucking 5 minutes.
It just depends, if your percent changes to what you would make, in like 3 month span. If your partial is literally that, then your mind is just like, nah, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
Like I've come to realize, like I started trading NAS every day in 2022. Like that's all I would trade, and I come up with this game where I'm like, okay, I'm risking 20 for 100, right? Because like on $1,000 account, that's a 2% risk, right? Because $20 is a 2% risk, and if you hit 100, that's the 10% gain, right? So imagine if you work that plan, work that plan, work that plan, work that plan, and then you were given $100,000. You know what I mean? So like this partial here, essentially, let's just say that price was to go 5%. Well, the $1,000 account, that's $50. So 100,000, that's 5. So if you're cutting those partials and they're, relatively, large amounts, it does, I think, clear up your head for sure. And I think that's what the biggest thing about access to capital and the beauty for our platform, iMastery Academy too, is that, it gives the student, the customer, et cetera, or whatever, it gives them the ability to really dream and see this as something that can maybe be something long term for them to really be doing day in, day out. Because when I was cutting $50 and $25 partials, it was tough, but
Yeah.
don't despise small beginnings because it's about skill. It's not about a dollar amount. Because I love percentages. If I didn't, and we're talking to someone that failed like high school math, all right, because of percentages. So
Damn.
just,
Well, look at that.
yeah,
Someone who
not
failed high school math lessons on percentages, man. That is starting from the bottom, man. And this is where we're at. And that's
100%.
awesome, man.
So yeah, man, I mean, let's definitely we need to set up a time when like say if you trade New York outside the platform, we set up a time where like that's where I trade my best too, is like when I'm with a group of people that
Yeah.
are, skilled as well, because then we can come together and collaborate on adding some of those things. It's also tough sometimes too, but I
Yeah.
think it's so similar to you that all the guys that we work with, it's actually crazy because when I do mess up, right? Like there's days you're not gonna, we're humans. It's really a fun reminder when someone comes back in the chat and they're like, "Yeah, I got above the open and I hit the target," because you know that you messed up and that the plan works. That gives me so much clarity. It's insane.
Oh yeah. No, like I I know I get humbled, from time to time because my students will get a better entry than me. And I'm like, "Oh fuck. That's awesome." You know what I mean? Like I think that's
Mm-hmm.
great. It's like, "Damn, you really took that." Josh, one of my students, he's been trading, I think, oil. I think he's shown a couple oil trades, and they've been some pretty bangers. You know what I mean? I don't trade oil by any means. I think USD CAD is the worst fucking pair imaginable.
Yeah.
I'd rather trade like an exotic than to trade that bullshit. But just because I like something, that doesn't mean like other people aren't gonna like it or trade it. So he's been killing oil. You know what I mean? So
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter at the end of the day, as long as people are they have a plan, they're sticking to it, and they're taking good trades, then who cares.
Yeah, 100%. So I think indices, like if you're, and just saying potentially if you're doing funded capital and you're obviously their requirements, they're wanting you to get, you guys know, like, for the to pass and stuff like that. It just makes sense if you're trading indices to me. For now, it depends on what type of trader you are, right? I don't want to sit around and wait and have that feeling of draw that I don't like that. That's not the type of person I am. So if I can see that I can get from point A to point B, and it's gonna net me this percentage potentially, um, I'd rather do it in that session. Now, here's the beautiful thing that I have found out as I've been doing, like getting into this. Like I still feel like I'm just a baby. I'm still learning every day. One thing I've learned though is when you get these amazing positions, you're able to hold these positions, and if you're understanding higher time frame of daily, like I've got some shorts still from up here. I've got some from up here on a different account, right? And I know
Sheesh.
that, and I know that I'm targeting 11,500 in balance at this point. And so like now I'm seeing all three of the assets, break lower low. So then I can jump into like today it's Friday, so I'm gonna jump into higher time frames later and look just to kind of see where we're at weekly, monthly, etc. And now I'm starting to really see like that one big picture. Well, this is our swing low of Dow, right? On the daily. And then these are our new highs. So now I start evaluating where the real good buys would come in, obviously, right? And so at this point we're above equilibrium, and that's why I was like, we're going sideways. Let's short down to the 61.871% areas and balances. So same thing with NAS. You guys can kind of see like the trades that we have on. We took the shorts here today to end Friday. We're holding those trades going into the weekly 50% of the imbalance 11.75, 11.50. So that's another 100 points away. So hope maybe that'll happen by next week. But yeah, I mean, bro, just middies, middies, and timing, middies, and timing.
Yes, sir. I mean, it's just one thing about what you were showing, is very, very similar, right, to what I like to look for in my great setups. It's liquidity, right? Who got knocked out, and is either smart money or the ones who manipulate price, are they in drawdown? Are they going to mitigate that drawdown, right?
Yeah.
And then we just play the setup. If my favorite setup, and this is one I've been showing probably for about a year now, my favorite entry technique is when there is an imbalance within a mitigation, or an
Mhm.
imbalance within like an institutional candle, or as long as there's an imbalance within something, that to me is just super fucking strong. And I mean, we're talking 30 seconds, less than 2 minutes, and draw down straight to, your direction. So I look for those, and that's pretty much all that I got. You know what I mean? So anyway, we're coming up on an hour and 47 minutes, so we've been here for almost 2 hours. You still have the screen, and I'll still let you do what you got to do, but I'm pretty much done for today. The last hour I'm not going to trade. I personally, for me, I think today is done. I think this week is done. I'm ready to get my weekend started. I'm hungry, actually. I'm going to order some tacos here pretty soon, most likely. But what do you think is gonna happen in the last hour? And any last minute thoughts that you may have, feel free to comment and do what you got to do. But
Gotcha. So I'll just I'm gonna erase this really quick. But just looking at price here from this previous low at New York to now, right? We have a lower low. So now intraday, like intraday on small time frames, right? You've gotten the 1 minute imbalance fill already. So like you've already gotten this here,
mhm.
right? And pushing higher. So for me, it's under the range. I wouldn't have took the trade until I got the confirmation of bulls, right? So bulls confirmed themselves here, but then look what time they pull it back, right? So it's 125. It's still a 5 minute close. It's not, it's not like what I would say, like, yes, I would take that one. But when you're looking at the last down candle, I like to use that open where it's 50% for the entry. You did get the confirmation higher high. You did get the pullback to the area, and you are able to, I can always usually find a position. It's just, that's why I said, like, I have to pick a time to be like, this is when I'm going to trade, But 20-point risk there, you're looking at just getting across that first high. That's going to be a 1 to 3. So if you're managing this trade right now, right, you're going to be targeting higher time frames. So New York sellers, I still think that it would be crazy if they do this right now. And
Jeez,
yeah, I
that'd be
mean,
some shit if we got up there.
well, like let's say this, like let's say the target is that'd be a 1 to 15, or if you cut it in half, obviously whatever half 15 is, I can't think right now. But like my focus would go, well, 7.5, but but my focus once I have that 1 to 3 secured would be like, okay, are we gonna get, like, when we look at the fibs from the previous swing of this move, right? Because that would be our targets up there. I would anticipate like what happens at the 71 inside this imbalance here, and that's the areas I would actually target for the buy. So maybe you get a 1 to 10 here, maybe you cut it in half, you do a 1 to 5. So for the end of the day, I really can't tell you what would happen, but based off of what I'm seeing with price action right now, I would want to see them continue to like power hour this all the way back up into the imbalance and hit the whole level of 12K. We're about ready, Kayla. I need my phone. Okay, cool. Here you go. Have to call me. Okay, so but yeah, so that's pretty much what I would see. But I do have some things I gotta get to the rest of the day, so I do.
Yeah, me too. It's getting late. It's Friday. It's all good, man.
But once again, man, I just want to give you your kudos, your love, bro. You're someone that I'm super grateful to God that you come into my life in the way that you did. Obviously through the computer, let's just say.
Yeah.
And that everything that you keep doing in the future, man, just understand that you really are changing lives, bro. Like the time that you're giving, people may not, and that's why I got so, all right. That's why I got a little upset when certain people said certain things, but just want you to know, bro, like there's so many people that appreciate you. There's so many families that are going to benefit from the time that you're given. And I'm just grateful, bro, that you have me on here. So I really appreciate you.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. And look, it doesn't matter what we do. It doesn't matter who you are. Bro, people hate on fucking Mr. Beast. You know what I mean? And he's out here feeding the hungry. He just cured like 1,000 people's blindness. You know what I mean? And people still are gonna hate on Mr. Beast. People hated Gandhi. People hated Jesus. I mean, literally, it doesn't matter what you do or how good that you are at anything. There's always going to be somebody that's going to have something to say. And honestly, who gives a flying fuck about about those people or their opinions? They don't have the results that we want anyway. So that's not who we're going to listen to, right? Kevin Trudeau, who do you listen to? Well, we're not fucking listening to those people. You know what I mean? I'm grateful for you, broski. Grateful for you to be here. The chat is showing their love as well. They got some value from today's presentation. So thanks again for being here. We'll have you on here again pretty soon, sometime in the future as well. But that is going to be all for me. And that's it. So thanks again, broski.
Much love, bro. Appreciate you. Have a good one.
You too, man. All right, chat. That is going to be it for today. I don't have any real opinions on what the market's going to do here in the last hour. It looks like we're just trading back within the range. NASDAQ would have been the play of the afternoon. Excuse me. Taking the low of March 2nd. We see a little bit of a pullback on the day, a little bit of profit taking, probably from shorts, especially from that mitigation. That was such a monster move. So we'll go ahead and cut it here, man. I hope you guys have a blessed weekend. I will see you guys here next week again, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday, same time. Well, they're different times of the day, but you guys know the schedule. All right, so be blessed.